What's up guys, it's the Cheapster here back with another video, and today we have a fun one. So I have been doing delivery driving for about 4 years, I think a little over 4 years at this point, and I have racked up a lot of stories in that time. So I thought it would be fun to go over some of my craziest stories that I've had while I've been out delivering. So I'm going to go over 5 best stories that I've had while delivering and 5 worst stories I've had while delivering. So getting started out with one of my best deliveries, it is actually the first DoorDash delivery I ever did in my life. So this first DoorDash delivery was to a Chinese restaurant, and it was a pretty big order. It had a lot of stuff in it. So I went to the restaurant, just a normal pickup, picked it up, went to the house to go drop it off, and they had a gate at their door, so I couldn't get to their front door without getting through the gate, and it was locked, so I couldn't get around it. So I called them thinking, okay, they'll just come out and meet me by the gate probably, or open the gate some way, and I could come in and get it. Called. Nobody would answer. I could actually hear the phone ringing from where I was standing inside the house. Called probably 5 times, and obviously I hadn't dealt with what to do with this since this was my first DoorDash order. So I think it just said I had to wait 10 minutes or to start like a waiting timer. I think it was 10 minutes, and then just keep trying to contact the customer, and I did that for the 10 minutes. They never answered, so they just said leave with the food. So in the end I left with the food, and it was probably like $50 or $60 worth of Chinese food. Later on, about 20 or 30 minutes later, the person started calling me over and over trying to ask where their food was, and of course by that point I answered, and I was like, well, you know, it's been like 30 minutes, you didn't answer your phone, I couldn't get around. And they were pretty upset about it, but I was like, I don't know what you wanted me to do. So I got to have a great Chinese meal. They weren't very happy, and the great thing with that is I still got paid in the end and got a great Chinese meal. And it was really funny with this that was my first DoorDash order I ever did, and I just got free food and got paid, so it was a great order. Alright, so next, one of my bad orders. This was an order probably to someplace like Taco Bell or something, and I picked it up. I was dropping it off at a Motel 6 that's not in a bad area. It's actually pretty fine, but it is kind of sketchy, like right in this area. The motels and stuff there are kind of rough. So I went to go drop it off. I think it was like evening. It wasn't super late. It might have been like 6 or 7 o'clock. Knock on the door. The guy answers the door, and I have never seen anybody look like this in my entire life. The guy's eyes were completely red and bloodshot. He was breathing super heavy, and I think he had his shirt off. So I was completely freaked out, and I was just like, here's your food, here's your food. I was just trying to get away. So I imagine this guy had probably done something before I showed up. It was really sketchy. I've never seen anybody look like that before, and I was pretty scared to go back there after that. So another good story. There was one day that in one single day, I got free fries from Red Robin, because they used to do this all the time where if you went to pick up an order, you would get free fries. I don't think they do it anymore. At least they haven't been giving me the free fries here. But I got free fries from Red Robin. Then I went to KFC, and they gave me 4 free like cinnamon frosted biscuits. I don't really remember why, but I got 4. It was like a big box. I think they cost like maybe $5 for this box, and they gave me those for free. And then later that day, I got a free drink from Smashburger. So I got like 3 free things in one day. I remember that day was really awesome. Also, I had not eaten much that day. So when I got the fries and stuff, they tasted so good because I was starving. Actually didn't feel so good after the frosted biscuits because I think I ate like 2 of them. They're probably like 300 calories, 400 calories a piece. But it was really great to get all that free food in one day. So that was a really cool day. Alright, so next, another bad story. This one was weird, and this just happened maybe a few months ago. This was at an IHOP late at night. I think I was working for DoorDash, and I went into the IHOP, asked for the order. The person said they'd have to wait a second. They'd go get it. So I'm standing there, and this guy beside me is at the like waiting area of the IHOP, and he's talking. And I thought he was talking to somebody because there was another guy sitting there. And he just keeps talking, and I realized he's kind of just talking to everybody. And I realized the guy who was sitting there was just staring straight ahead, like not looking at the guy. And that's my first red flag that, oh, maybe this guy isn't that normal. And then he says to me, he looks at me and he says, hey, I just told this guy over here, you want to see my shirt turn red? And he's wearing a white shirt. So at first I was kind of like, huh, yeah. And then I was like, wait a minute. I was like, is this a threat? Is this guy saying he's going to stab me or he's going to stab himself? I was like, are you talking about blood? Like, I didn't know what he was talking about, and it really kind of freaked me out. So then I was like, okay, I went from this is funny to I think this guy might be threatening me, and I was kind of worried, so I'm just like, give me my order. So then I started doing exactly what the other guy is doing and just staring straight ahead because I'm like keeping the guy in my peripherals. And this guy says that he can do it in like 10 seconds. And that's what made it more sound threatening, because he's like, I can make it turn red in 10 seconds. And he starts counting. So he's going 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, if this guy gets to 10 and comes at me, this is going to get bad. So I'm standing there, and as soon as he gets closer to 10, I'm kind of like, you know, keeping my eye on him, trying to ignore him, but keeping my eye on him. He gets to 10, just keeps counting. He says 11, 12, 13. I think I stood there until he got to 40. They gave me my stuff, and I walked out the door. I could hear him still counting. And then once I left, I heard him say to that same guy who was sitting down, "Hey, you want to see my shirt turn red?" So I guess he was just kind of a crazy guy that was standing in there. At least it wasn't a threat. I thought that could get bad, but definitely a weird story. All right, so back to another good story. This one I actually caught on camera. I've caught a lot of my good and bad stories on camera somehow. They just randomly seem to happen when I go out to film. This is actually in my Grubhub versus DoorDash video that I did with my sister. I actually got to meet Coach Day of the Ohio State Buckeyes, which I am a Buckeye. I'm from Ohio. I'm not a Buckeye. I didn't go to OSU, but I consider myself a Buckeye. I've been there my entire life until we moved down to South Carolina. So that was a super cool experience. I didn't really get to meet him. You could watch the video and I talk about it, but I didn't really get to meet him like face to face, shake his hand or anything. And this was obviously during the pandemic, so things were a little bit weird. And I had my mask on, and I didn't fully recognize him until after, but then I realized it was him. So that was a really cool experience, to be able to meet somebody that I've seen only on TV. That it was just a really cool, fun thing, and I've never actually had that happen before. Okay, so next, another bad story. This was me actually just a few months ago working for Grubhub. I went to a seafood place that's by us to go pick up an order, and I got there and I was sitting there kind of looking through the order to make sure there's no drinks, because it's always one thing you got to do, check to make sure that you need to pick up a drink or not. And I was kind of looking at my phone, and I was like, okay, open the door, go to step out of the car, and I step down and I just hear, and I was like, oh, what is that? I looked down, somebody had thrown up all over the place. And of course, this was like an empty parking lot. There was basically every spot open. I could have parked wherever. And it just so happened I parked at the one spot that the person had thrown up beside. And it wasn't even like the closest spot. I don't even know why I parked there. It was just I parked there, and it just happened to be that's where somebody had thrown up. So I stepped in to throw up, and that was disgusting. And then, of course, I didn't really have any way to clean it, so I just kind of went over to the grass and tried to wipe it off as best as I could. Luckily, I think that did pretty well because I didn't smell it or anything the rest of the day, but that was really gross. That was not a good story. All right, so next, this story is good, but I mean, it's kind of just, I don't know if it's really good. It was just kind of a fun experience. And that is one time way back in the day when I first was working for Grubhub. So this was like 3 years ago. I had only been working for them probably for like a month or two. Hadn't done too much with them. And I had to go pick up an order. I was working late. I had to go pick up an order from a place that said it was like some kind of bar or something. So I was just expecting to walk in and whatever, it'd just be a bar to pick up. Get there is no parking anywhere. So I was like, oh man, why is this place so busy and packed and stuff? So found a street parking spot and went into the place, realized that it was like spring break at OSU, and everybody was packed in this place. It was actually like a club. It wasn't just like a bar, it was a club. So I had to like go through this crowd of dancing people, these OSU students, to try to get to the bar to ask for the order. And as I'm doing it, everybody is yelling, "Grubhub guy, it's the Grubhub guy," and trying to get me to dance with them at the club. So it was just a really funny experience, and it was like really early on of doing this, so I thought it was so funny to like be there. Everyone was yelling that, and then I got the food and I left. Couldn't stay, obviously I had to keep doing the work, but it was a really funny experience, so it was a good one. All right, so my next bad experience, and man, this one was a pretty bad one. This one just happened probably like 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. It was when it was cold, and we actually had a snowstorm here in Greenville, which never happens. There's not usually much snow. We definitely don't get snowstorms usually, but we did this day. I think we got like 2, maybe 3 inches at the most in the city. And I usually take snow as like a good time to go work. I used to have a Grand Prix, and it would handled so well in the snow. So I used to go out and I'd work Grubhub or DoorDash or whatever when it would snow, because that was just like a easy time for me. I'd never got stuck in it. My car handled really well, and there was always really good orders when it was snowing. So when I knew it was going to snow, I thought, okay, I'm going to go take some orders, hopefully get some big orders, make some good money. Not thinking about the fact that now I had bought a Honda Civic, and Honda Civics have to be one of the worst cars, I think, at handling in the snow. They're super light. I don't think the handling is so great, so you're definitely sliding. It's very easy to get stuck with them, and I didn't really think about that as much until I got out there, especially since I've been living in Greenville, not having to deal with snow much lately. So I get out there, and it is probably like an inch of snow as I'm going to pick up an order. So I park, and I go into this place, and it's one of the order and pay. No, it was just a pay order. It was supposed to already be ordered. So I go into the place to pick it up, and they tell me that they don't even have it. So I was like, oh, great. And this happens sometimes with Grubhub. I'm sure if you're a Grubhub driver, you've experienced this, where then you have to place the order, wait the whole time for that to be ready, and then pay for it, which can take another 30 to 45 minutes or something, which is just super annoying. So long story short, because this story does get very long, the snow was coming down very heavy while I was there. So I'm starting to get worried because I was about to quit my day anyway, because I could tell my car wasn't handling well. So I waited there. They said it would be like 20 minutes. Of course, 20 minutes passes. It's not ready. It's like 30 minutes. And about at 25 minutes before it was about to be ready, I went up and just said, can I go ahead and pay for it? So I started trying to pay with my Grubhub card, and it got declined. And one of the reasons was because they didn't have one of the things the person was ordering. And this is very common, that if they don't have something, the order is not actually placed. And this is when you run into these issues. So I called the person and said, is it okay that they don't have this? Before, when I placed the order, I said, is it okay that they don't have this? Do you want me to replace it with something? They said, no, just take it off. So I was trying to do that, but I think because the order amount was different, the card wasn't letting it run through, which I figured this isn't that big of a deal. I'll just call Grubhub. They'll get it fixed, and they'll let it run through after I tell them what happened, that I've approved it with the customer. So I call Grubhub, try to talk to them about all this stuff, and they say that they'll be able to get to go through. I tried to run that card 3 or 4 times with talking to Grubhub, every time saying that they fixed it, and it never went through. I could never get it to work. And I asked Grubhub, can I just pay with my personal card and then you pay me back? Because I was like, at this point, I just want to get out of here. The snow is coming down. The power was actually going out at this place. It kept going off, and then it would come back on because it was like a hotel restaurant bar. So I think they had a generator, but it kept going out. So I was like, it was bad. I was like, this is really getting bad. I gotta get out of here. I gotta be done working, because I'm not even gonna be able to leave if I stay long. And in the end, I could never get it figured out. They couldn't get it fixed for me. I couldn't get the person their food, and I had to leave there. And it said I was gonna get paid nothing. Luckily, I did get somebody to actually fix it a little bit, and I got paid $7. But this was like an hour and a half of work, stressing about the snow, all this stuff. Like, this went on forever. The people there were getting a little frustrated with me, and I was like, I know, I don't know what to do about this. It was really difficult. That was a really bad story, and to make $7 off that was awful, because I think I was supposed to make like $18. So probably one of my worst stories that I've ever had as a delivery driver. That was a really rough experience. Okay, so moving on from that bad story, here's a nice heartwarming story. There was one order that I was doing. It was about a year ago. It was during the pandemic and stuff, and I don't remember what I was delivering or anything, but I know that I got there, dropped the food off at the door, and they had a basket there that said they worked for BarkBox and to take a treat for your 4-legged friend. So that was really cool. I got to take some treats for my dog, and then I took a toy for my mom's dog, because I was actually working up in Ohio and staying with her, so I gave that to her dog too. So that was a really nice story, really nice. And those things are expensive. Those BarkBox toys, I think they're like $10. Of course, my dog ruined it like immediately when he came over to play with it, but it was really nice that they did that. Really good story. All right, so my last story, and this is a bad one. I should have ended on a good one. I didn't pace this out right. Should have made a good one the last story, but this one's not really too bad. It could have been a lot worse. And this was one day, probably like 6 months ago. I was doing an order, and I came up to the guy's porch that I was giving the food to, and it was really dark. He didn't have lights on and stuff. This happens a lot if you're a delivery driver. There's a lot of times where you can't see. And I had my phone out with the flashlight when I went up there, but turned it off and put it in my pocket when I knocked on the door. Gave the guy the food, said bye to him. He was actually really nice. Just, I think a lot of times people don't think to turn the light on. It's definitely something you could easily forget. So I gave him the food and I'm walking away. Didn't pull my phone out to use my flashlight for some reason. Should have done it because it was dark. And forgot that there was 3 steps down from his steps. And I took 2. Went to just walk forward and there was another step, so I fell down, busted my knee a little bit, and then just went into his bushes. Like, I was just in his bushes, and the guy was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm like cracking up because I wasn't actually hurt, but I was like, I was more embarrassed than anything, way more embarrassed than hurt. So I just got up and I was like, "Oh, it's okay, I'm fine," but then walked away. Yeah, my knee was a little scratched and bleeding, but it wasn't too bad of a story, just kind of a funny story, but a negative story nonetheless. So that's it. Those are my 10 stories, 5 bad stories, 5 good stories. I've got tons of stories. If you guys like this, I'll do this more because I've got a whole list of stories, of good stories and bad stories from the 4 years of doing this. And as I keep working, more stories always keep coming up. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know your stories down in the comments. I'm going to pin a comment by myself down there. Comment on that and let me know what some of your best stories and some of your worst stories on. I'd like to hear them. Be really funny to hear some of them, maybe terrible to hear some of them too. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like the video, go ahead and do the cheapest thing you can today. Tap that like button. Also subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And I will see you guys in the next video. And remember, stay cheap.
Hey, you better be saving that money. Don't you be spending it now. You're still here watching this? You might as well just subscribe. Why would you not at this point?